What is up, guys? Bobgar here, and I wanted to do a quick closing thoughts on $10 standard Green Stompy. Let's jump right into it. So we went 4-1, which is surprisingly good considering the budget of the deck. The big hits that the cards I felt like did really well. Electrostatic Pummeler, I kind of went in knowing that it would do pretty well, but it definitely got us a bunch of free wins. This was probably the last one actually in my list of ones to give a check mark to, and it was in pretty stark competition with Longtusk Cub. Longtusk Cub didn't win us games in the same dramatic fashion that Electrostatic Pummeler did, but it did grind really, really well, and a lot of times we would just end up with a 6-6 or 7-7 Longtusk Cub and be able to swing in with it and have our opponent not be able to do much to stop us. So definitely different than how Electrostatic Pummeler played, but both were pretty important to our success. Blossoming Defense, every time I had it in my hand, I felt good. I mean, it was especially good because of Electrostatic Pummeler, because some of our threats, like Electrostatic Pummeler, you just really, really want to defend. But, yeah, it's just a really good card. Super efficient. It's pretty easy to keep one man up in the deck, especially mid-game. You can save him on your opponent's turn, and on your turn, it can often allow you to swing in for a lot of damage. So I liked Blossoming Defense a lot. And Cartouche of Strength was one I went in thinking it was like in this kind of flex slot, but I was like, I'm dropping red, I need some amount of removal, and every time I played it, it felt good. I think every time I played it, I killed an opponent's creature while buffing my creature and giving it trample and swinging in for extra damage, and it was a really good tempo play turn 3. It ended up being a lot of times they didn't have a turn 1 creature, they had a turn 2 creature, and then on our turn 3, we would buff our turn 2 creature, kill their turn 2 creature, swing in for damage, and that's obviously very strong. It's a big swing in the game. The ones that didn't do as well, so some of these actually I still think are pretty good. Highspire Infusion is probably the most deserving to get the X. It still is fine. It just wasn't exciting in any of her matches. Kessig Prowler is in about the same boat. It just was not very impressive to me, just because later game, a 2-1 is not very good unless you drop it on turn 1. And yeah, you can flip it to a 4-4 for 5 mana, but we never really ended up in cases where that was a good thing for us to do. Greenbelt Rampager is the least deserving to be on the X list, but I like to do 3 checks and 3 X's, and I had to pick one. I think everything else in the deck performed a little better, whether it was because they were actually stronger cards or just happened to be that way because of when I drew them. Rishkar, I do think I wouldn't give it an X, but I would say it might only make sense to play 2. The times we got 2 in our hands were bad, and then once or twice we got 3 in our hand, and that was just painful. So it's definitely not great to be running 3 of them, I think, in this deck, because it's not super necessary. It's not incredibly more efficient than other 3-drops we could play. And then, yeah, the only other one that I could consider for an X is Servant of the Conduit, which doesn't do that much, but it gives us mana and gives us energy, and both of those are things we needed a lot of the time. So it kept us in a lot of games that we would have lost otherwise. Just it allowed us to play less lands while still playing a 2-2, so it's just really good for us. And a lot of times that extra energy could be used to pump Electrostatic Pummeler an extra time or something. So yeah, I didn't feel like that deserved the X either. So Greenbelt Rampager of kind of the middle stuff that didn't do a lot for me but didn't seem to hurt me that much either, got the X just because it was the one that I felt like I had the least good defenses for, giving it a check mark, or giving it not giving it X, I guess. And then we'll talk a little bit about upgrading. So there's a lot of these decks out there. If we wanted to keep it mono green, the most obvious things are adding Aether Hub. Yes, Aether Hub is a colorless land and we're in mono green, so it feels a little silly. We don't ever want to use its ability to tap for any color. We're just adding it because it's a land that produces an energy for us. We use energy a lot, and most of our things aren't so heavy in green that we can't afford to play 3 to 4 Aether Hubs and just basically benefit because we're getting the extra couple energy from them. So I feel like that's an easy include even if you're keeping it mono green, and an even easier include if you're going more colors because it's good color fixing. Bonus the Indomitable I haven't tried, but I feel like it would be really good in this deck. A 5/5 for 3 is super efficient. For 3 mana, it can give your creatures +2/+0, give a creature +2/+0 and trample. It has Death Touch. It just feels like exactly where this deck wants to be. And then finally, Verdurous Gearhulk. 5 mana is a little high for our deck, but it has built-in trample. It's a 4/4 by default, plus it gets to push 4 +1/+1 counters around to other creatures. So if we did get this guy out mid-game, we could push through a lot of damage. So I think he'd be good for that reason. And then the next obvious thing to do is most of the aggressive energy decks are at least green-red. Sometimes they go a third color. I mean, if you really want to do it, there's other energy decks you can do, like Marvel, which obviously would be built very, very differently. But if you just wanted to go a second color, red gives us a lot of tools, and some of them are pretty big upgrades over what we're doing in this build of the deck. Harness Lightning is really good removal. You can remove pretty big creatures with it. I actually don't know if it's worth it over the Cartouche. It probably is, especially since it's instant speed. But yeah, so that's an option. Voltaic Brawler is just one of the most aggressive 2-drops in the format. It's a 3/2 that swings as a 4/3 if you spend 1 energy, and usually spending 1 energy isn't a big deal, so mostly you're attacking for 4 damage with this guy. And a 4/3 2-drop is very powerful. Invigorated Rampage is basically like Larger Than Life. It only buffs attack, not toughness, so that's the one disadvantage. But the fact that it's an instant means you don't have to give away what you're doing and who you're playing the trample on during your pre-combat main phase. And it also allows you to spread around the trample, because you can give, instead of giving 1 creature plus 4/0 and trample, you can give 2 creatures plus 2/0 and trample. So those bonuses are pretty big. And Electrostatic Pummeler doubles off of power, not toughness. So the fact that this guy only buffs power for Electrostatic Pummeler, which is usually our targets for pumps anyway, isn't a very big deal. And a lot of times if we're using our pumps, we're intending to get in for the last bit of damage anyway, so even if we don't pump our guys' toughness and our guys die at the end of combat, as long as they got in that damage and trampled through, it doesn't matter that much. Next up are kind of the big threats that we can do if we're going red. I don't know which of these are correct to put in or not. I've seen all of them played in various quantities. Arlen Cord and Chandra Torch of Defiance are both very good planeswalkers in aggressive decks. Arlen Cord can pump creatures, put out creatures, and deal some damage. Just does everything you kind of want. It's like a mini removal spell, and a mini pump spell, and a mini creature generator. And then Chandra gives you some reach into the mid game by both has an ability to kill creatures and has an ability to dig you through some cards and do a few direct damage if you decide not to play the cards it digs you to. The +2 mana, I don't think our deck would use very often, but I guess if we switched it into more of a mid-range where we want to hit things like Verdurous Gearhawk, could be good. So Glorybringer is just a 4/4 flying haste, and it also has, when you attack with it, you can exert it and deal 4 damage to target non-dragon creature an opponent controls. So a lot of times at turn 5, you can basically play this guy, swing with him and all your other creatures, use his ability to kill your opponent's only significant blocker, and hopefully just win the game. So definitely powerful, definitely could see him working in the deck, but again, I haven't tried him, so I just don't really know. And that's the deck for the week. We did surprisingly well. I've always found these strategies. I used to play a slightly more expensive red-green version that was similar, and I was always really impressed with the results. I think it switched away a little bit from the deck, because the deck definitely doesn't run that much removal, especially that's instant speed, so the Felidar Guardian combo was pretty hard for us to deal with, but Felidar Guardian combo is now out of standard, so I don't think it's the top deck or anything anywhere close to that, but it definitely has enough game to be a great Friday Night Magic deck, to steal matches off of anybody if you get a reasonably good aggressive draw, and if they can't answer your Pummeler, the Pummeler a lot of times is just a free win. So yeah, a very fun deck that I really enjoyed playing, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Thank you so much. I'll see you later. Hey guys, Bobgar here. I just really wanted to quickly say, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you enjoy my content in general and would like to see more of it, subscribe. I'll be coming out with more content in the future. And please leave me comments and let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, both in terms of production and in terms of my play and my deck building and all that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.